Home and Away spoilers. Cash gets a surprise from beyond the grave. Next week on Home and Away in the UK. As Cash continues to struggle with grief, a letter from one of Felicity's organ recipients looks set to change everything. Having decided to play an active part in the running of SALT, after inheriting sister Felicity's half of the business following her death, Cash's presence proves too much for ex-fiancée Eden. Given Cash's career as a police officer, SALT co-owner Mackenzie had hoped that Cash would opt to be a silent partner. She was therefore frustrated when he instead started scrutinizing the books and turned up hoping to help out during a shift. Despite not knowing the first thing about running a restaurant, it also caused some disappointment for SALT's bartender and event planner Xander, who had hoped he might buy Cash's half of the business if he was looking to sell. Cash explained to Xander that it was the last thing he had of Flick, and given it was her passion he intended to carry on her legacy. What Cash hadn't factored in was the fact that Eden is employed there. Relations are not great between the two since he brutally dumped her at Flick's funeral, stating it was for her own protection as everyone he loves ends up dead. Next week, Cash cannot keep his eyes off Eden as she works, and she's soon calling him out on it. Talking privately in the storeroom, Eden asks if he's really going to throw away everything they had due to his irrational fears. But Cash tells her that it's time to let it go. It's already over and he's not going to change his mind. She removes her engagement ring in response, and when Cash later asks her to keep it, she tells him to shove it. The next morning Eden turns up on Cash's doorstep and announces that she's resigning from SALT. As Eden begins a new job search, Cash is paid a visit by Remy, who points out that whilst it's his choice if he wants to push away someone who loves him, he shouldn't force Eden to quit her job. Cash denies doing so, but Remy tells him that he's not given her much choice. She can hardly stay and torture herself every day. Cash later reflects on what Remy said, and ends up confiding in John, asking what he thinks he should do about SALT. John suggests that he and Eden have been through enough, and Cash should do whatever makes life as easy as possible for them both. SALT is just bricks and mortar at the end of day. Cash's real connection to Flick is in his heart. Cash knows that John is right, and he later lets Eden know that she can return to work as he's decided that he is instead going to be a silent partner in SALT. When John calls over with more food from Marilyn the next morning, Cash explains that he took his advice, but he is soon distracted when he opens the Morning Post and finds a letter from the organization that handled Flick's organ donations. They explain that Flick's organs have helped improve the lives of 5 different people, and one of the recipients has written a letter to offer their gratitude to Flick's family. The organization explained that there's no obligation on Cash to read the letter, but he opts to open it and asks John to stay with him. The woman explains that she received Flick's heart and lungs, having suffered with a heart defect for most of her life. But thanks to them she now has a chance to live her life to the full. Cash begins to choke up and John takes over, as the recipient assures Cash that they will be forever grateful. Cash feels he needs to reach out to the woman, but John reminds her that all contact has to be anonymous and go through the organization. But Cash somehow doesn't feel that's enough. Nevertheless, that night Cash cannot sleep and decides to write a letter back. What will he say? Meanwhile, although his hopes of co-owning SALT were quickly dashed, the idea has set the cogs whirring in Xander's mind. Tane and Harper find Xander staring thoughtfully up at the SALT balcony, and he asks Tane whether he had always known he'd wanted to run a gym. He later quizzes Leah too, who tells him the advantages of being her own boss. Rose overhears Xander's question and is curious what her brother is up to. He explains that can't stop thinking about running his own business, and with his inheritance money and ambulance service payout still sitting in the bank, he has been contemplating signing up to an online business course. Is the Bay's next entrepreneur in the making?
Các bạn vừa theo dõi một sản phẩm của Home and Away Spoiler Today. Xin chào.